They say the sky doesn't keep secrets, but one man proved it could for a while. This is the story of Rick Wershe, a man who flew through storms, through borders, through laws, and vanished into the clouds. A story about greed, loyalty, and the illusion of freedom. About a man who learned to outfly the system until the system caught up. The beginning, a sky built on secrets. It started in the early 1980s in Florida, a land of heat, money, and opportunity. Rick wasn't born rich. He was a small-town pilot with big ambitions. By day, he flew cargo and charter planes. By night, he dreamed of something bigger. He loved the sky, its silence, its freedom, its absence of rules. But freedom, as he would learn, always has a price. Rick's reputation grew quickly. He was calm under pressure, fearless in storms, and could land a plane on a strip of dirt shorter than a football field. That skill caught the attention of people who lived in a world without flight plans, people who didn't transport cargo, but forbidden things. The first deal. One night, at a quiet bar near a small airfield, a man approached him. Well-dressed, polite, foreign accent. He offered Rick $10,000 in cash for one simple flight. No questions, no paperwork. Rick laughed at first, but the man left a stack of bills on the counter. More money than Rick made in 3 months, and just like that, the seed was planted. Days later, Rick took off before dawn. No radar signature, no filed flight path. Only the hum of his twin-engine plane and the sound of his own heartbeat. He landed on a hidden strip in the Bahamas, refueled, and took off again, this time carrying small boxes sealed tight. Inside each one, pure cocaine. He flew through the night, low and fast, under the radar. When he touched down back in Florida, he unloaded and drove home. The next morning, he checked his bank account, a wire transfer, $80,000. That was the moment Rick Wershe crossed the invisible line from pilot to smuggler. The empire of the sky. After that, there was no going back. Rick became the cartel's most valuable pilot. Every week, he flew tons of cocaine from the Caribbean into the United States. He built hangars, bought fuel companies, and created fake flight logs, a ghost network in the sky. To the outside world, he was a successful businessman. To the underworld, he was El Fantasma del Cielo, the ghost of the sky. He didn't party, he didn't draw attention. He lived quietly, efficiently, like a machine. And because of that, he stayed invisible. The DEA, the FBI, even the CIA, they all knew someone was moving massive shipments, but no one knew who. Rick used weather patterns and radar blind spots to vanish mid-flight. He was a shadow above the clouds, a man who existed between frequencies. The cartel trusted him completely, so much that cartel leaders sent him messages through intermediaries, praising his reliability. But in that world, trust is fragile, and death waits behind every compliment. Playing both sides. By 1983, the DEA started hearing whispers of a mysterious pilot, a man with military precision and government-level access. They didn't know it yet, but Rick was already sitting in their meetings, working as a part-time informant. He had infiltrated the very agency that hunted him. He'd feed them minor intel, just enough to keep them satisfied. In exchange, he gained inside knowledge of flight patrols, radar schedules, and undercover routes. He was playing both sides, feeding one wolf to keep the other distracted. One DEA agent later said, he didn't just smuggle drugs, he smuggled information. And that was his true power. The addiction to control. Most people think the addiction was to money, but for Rick, it was to control. The power to move through the sky untouched, to fool both criminals and governments at once, to rewrite reality. He started moving millions, literally printing wealth out of thin air. Every night, another flight, another fortune, another secret. He bought houses under fake names, planes under shell companies, and even funded small businesses to launder the money. But every empire built on lies eventually runs out of sky. The first crack. It came quietly. One of his mechanics, loyal for years, was caught with a shipment of drugs. The man broke under interrogation. He gave them everything: Rick's routes, codes, contacts, even photographs. Within days, Rick's hangars were raided. Agents found altered aircraft, coded radios, and fake flight records. But Rick stayed calm. He smiled, handed them papers, permits, business licenses, federal contracts. Some real, some forged. The agents couldn't make the charges stick. He walked away free, again, but this time the DEA wasn't just suspicious. They were obsessed. They started following him quietly, tracking every flight, every dollar, every move. And somewhere in Colombia, the cartel began asking questions too. Rumors spread that their ghost pilot was feeding information to the Americans. For the first time, Rick wasn't untouchable. He was trapped between two sides that could both destroy him. The fall. In 1985, the dominoes began to fall. A co-pilot got caught moving money. To save himself, he gave up Rick's name. That was all it took. Suddenly, cars were tailing him. His phones were tapped. Every conversation recorded. Every move watched. He tried to disappear, moving planes, closing accounts, burning ledgers. But it was too late. One dawn, the storm arrived. DEA agents surrounded his hangar, shouting his name, guns drawn, lights flashing. Rick stepped out, calm, almost relieved. "You finally found me," he said quietly. They found millions in cash, coded notes, and maps of flight paths across the Caribbean. It was over, or so they thought. The deal. Rick was facing decades in prison, but before his trial began, something strange happened. Federal officials stepped in. Some files vanished, some evidence was reclassified, and one day, Rick's lawyer received a sealed offer: cooperate and walk free. He took the deal. For 2 years, Rick worked with the government, using his insider knowledge to dismantle smuggling routes and decode cartel operations. He was no longer the ghost of the sky. He was a ghost for the system. But you can't erase who you've been. Not from yourself, not from the people you betrayed. The disappearance. One night, in a motel near Miami, Rick heard a knock at the door. He opened it. No one was there, just an envelope on the ground. Inside, a photograph, his old plane, burning. No words, no signature, just the past, catching up. That night, he packed a small bag and disappeared. No trace, no record. Some say he fled to South America. Others claim the cartel found him. The truth, lost somewhere between rumor and myth. Rick Wershe, the ghost pilot, was gone. The aftermath? Years later, declassified documents hinted that Rick's operations had been partially funded by intelligence agencies, suggesting that his smuggling flights were, at times, used for covert missions during the Cold War. The same government that arrested him may have once protected him. It's impossible to know what's true, because the truth in stories like this changes depending on who's telling it. Maybe he was a criminal, maybe he was a spy, maybe both. But what everyone agrees on is that he flew higher than anyone was meant to. And when you fly too close to power, you burn quietly. The sky has no memory. They say the sky doesn't keep secrets, but Rick proved it does for a while. He built an empire on clouds and silence. He lived between worlds, the legal and the criminal, the visible and the invisible. And when both sides came crashing down, he vanished into the only place that ever truly belonged to him, the sky. Maybe that's the real tragedy. Not that he fell, but that he couldn't land. He vanished into the only place that ever truly belonged to him. Sometimes, the most dangerous borders aren't drawn on maps. They're drawn inside us, between loyalty and betrayal, between right and wrong, between the person we are and the person we pretend to be. Rick Wershe learned too late that freedom isn't about flying. It's about knowing when to land. If this story made you question what's real and what's right, you've just stepped into the shadows of truth. This is Shadow Quest. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and join us again as we uncover the darkness hidden behind ordinary lives.